us for the video screen? Will he not be joining us? It's fine
Yeah,
if
the
he
video
don't.
screen's right. Is it up?
No, it's not.
Oh, well, how
Turn
do
it
I
on
do
and
that?
turn it back off. Just hit the screen button and then okay, hang on. Hit it, and if it don't start, yeah, there you go, there you go, there he is.
All right, there we go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's up, man? We gotta respect my nerves in the building. I'm just trying to show off my hoodie because people love it so much. Man, we got B more in the building, baby. Yeah, boys in the house. Whoop, whoop. They got cheated in the playoffs, but that's another conversation. That's why I don't care about the NFL. I'm going to bet $5,000 on the Chiefs to win. But ladies and gentlemen, we have Brother Brandon Easton with us today. Very, very talented writer. Very, very blessed individual. God bless him in all his trials and tribulations. In spite of all that, he still has achieved greatness. And we're gonna get into some of those great things um that he's accomplished. I mean, this guy has done it all, he's won it all, and I continue. I just want to see him do more. Ooh la la. Um, Brother Brandon
All right.
from Baltimore, right? From Baltimore, Maryland. From
Born and raised.
Baltimore.
Yep.
From Baltimore. You, that's how they talk. You, like, if you want to know how people talk in Baltimore, go watch The Wire. Go watch The Wire. There's this lady named Snoop. That's how them dudes talk. I'm trying to be professional. I'm not trying to use
Hmm.
profanity. That's how those brothers talk. Yes, brother Brandon. When did you start writing exactly?
I mean, officially, well, I'll start unofficially. I was doing short stories in high school.
Mhm.
Officially, I didn't really break into the business until about 2002 with a series called Arcanium that was drawn by LaShawn Thomas, who went on. He went on to do some big stuff. But we were over at Dreamwave, Pat Lee's Dreamwave, way back in the day, and that was pretty much where I started at. And then things kind of will start and stopped over a course of like eight to 9 years. But then I kind of came back into the business again around 2011 and 2012. And
Mhm.
so I would say really it started around 2002. That was the official beginning.
Okay. Okay. Did you have anybody that you looked up to, writing wise, or you just kind of got into it and just kind of test your luck to see what would transpire?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of writers who I've admired for most of my life. I mean, you can go back. I mean, if you're talking about fiction writers, you could talk about Richard Wright. You could talk about Stephen Delaney, Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Heinlein. There's so many people. Stephen King,
Hmm.
Richard Matheson.
Hmm.
What's his name? Who did Twilight Zone? Rod Serling.
Hmm.
Screenwriters like Patty Chayefsky. I love
Hmm.
the works of Spielberg and
Hmm.
Lucas. I mean, I can go on and on and on.
Going on.
But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I've been heavily inspired by a lot of people. Like in comics, I always loved Dwayne McDuffie's work. I love Christopher Priest. I love, what's his name? Warren Ellis, Grant Morrison.
Hmm.
Neil Gaiman. We
Hmm.
can go down the long line of right. I mean, there's been so many people I've been influenced by. So it's I don't even know. That list could go on for like a 2.5 hours.
Okay. So, question: how was it being a kid from Bmore
Hmm.
going to um is it Ithaca?
Ithaca
Ithaca?
College, yeah, yeah.
Ithaca College, and you
Hmm.
received your MFA in screenwriting. Well,
That
no,
was
no,
that was at
that's
Boston
different. That's different.
University.
That's different.
That
That's
was
different. Yeah,
later.
yeah, no, no, yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
went to Ithaca, then you went to Boston University. So yeah,
Right.
Ithaca, then we're going to Boston University. I was there.
Yeah. I mean, being in Baltimore wasn't that bad up until probably 87, 88 when the crack cocaine thing, but that was everywhere. Any city, any large American city with a large black population got hit hard when crack hit the scene. Um, I had a pretty decent upbringing. I had nothing to complain about. I mean, then things happened to my family that weren't pleasant. But Ithaca, the only reason I even went there was because they gave me the best financial aid package. It wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do. I didn't really want to leave Baltimore, but there was a lot of stuff that was going on that I felt like I needed to grow outside of the bubble I grew up in, and or at least expand my horizons a bit. And Ithaca was a bittersweet experience because it was very wealthy, very, very white, and the students there weren't what I would call the most understanding of differences. These kids were not from neighborhoods like most of the kids, and I would say 85% of the students there came from communities where there were no black people at all, ever. So a lot of stuff that happened on campus was really nasty, and it definitely changes the way you view life and you view the world. I wish, in retrospect, if I could have afforded it, I wish I could have gone to, historically black college and university, like a Howard or Morgan State or a Morehouse or something I wish I had gone, but I couldn't afford it. So Ithaca was a wake-up call in a lot of ways. Not that I was naive, but dealing with racism in its purest form, like pretty much for 4 straight years, can like really mess with your head. So you definitely gain. I mean, the education I received there was top notch. I can't say it wasn't, but my experiences were not the most pleasant. And, I don't have a lot of, I would say it's like 60-40. I have 60% negative memories and 40% good ones. And the good ones are good, but the negatives are negative. So it's just what it is. I mean, Boston, that's a whole different story, and we don't have a lot of time for that. But Boston's reputation for not being kind to black people is very well earned and well deserved. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I definitely, I don't really, I really, that's not really my vibe. That's definitely not my
Yeah.
vibe. So, dude, okay, so, what were some of your favorite cartoons growing up as a kid? Because I'm pretty sure you're a Thundercats, not Thundercats, but, no, Thundercats, Transformers. The Thundercat fans too, but definitely Transformers, because I am a Transformers connoisseur, or I know the comics. I know
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the anime, I know it. I really dive into, like Transformers. If you ask me, I actually like the Decepticons more.
Right.
But like if you actually think about like the character development and the detail and the depth, because it's like, yo, they do not really dive into the Autobots how they should. But anyway,
I
dude,
agree.
man, that what you wrote for Transformers was amazing. So, like, would you say you were a detailed fan of the Transformers franchise, which is
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I would say there was a lot of things. I mean, I liked a lot of the old school Marvel cartoons, like 1960 Spider-Man was like one of my favorites. Then Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Transformers was like number one. Then it was like G.I. Joe, Robotech, He-Man. Thundercats, believe it or not, was not at the height of my fandom. I liked the show, but I felt like the sillier elements of the original Thundercats cartoon really dragged it down sometimes. It got really too silly. But I liked most of the action cartoons in the 1980s. I wasn't really watching a lot of stuff in the 90s, with the exception of Batman, the animated series, and the DC animated universe stuff. I love that stuff. But in the 80s, I would just say, yeah, Transformers, Robotech, Voltron, He-Man, G.I. Joe, like the old Marvel cartoons. Like a lot of that stuff was like my bread and butter, as they say.
Right. Okay. I have a question for you, brother
Mhm.
Easton. Let's talk about Shadow Law for a
Sure.
bit, because I got to get on Kindle and dabble in Shadow Law a little bit. Where did you come up with that concept? Because not too many people are fans of sci-fi, but I was like, if you watch these Marvel movies and these DC
hmm
movies, they're all
hmm hmm
sci-fi. Absolutely, every last one of them is sci-fi. So,
Yeah, yeah.
what did you kind of pull from with this Shadow Law? You got a guy
Yeah,
fighting
I mean,
vampires.
well, the idea was that what would happen if guys in mecha suits like Gundam or Patley bore,
Yeah.
not like the super robots, but like the real robots, like when like you drive like tanks. If
Hmm.
What happens if you mix that with like Underworld, with like the vampire nations and things like that? And I came up with this really interesting backstory where the Catholic Church took over the world, and they made a deal with the Vampire Legion to supply them with human cattle in exchange for all these other resources. And it comes from a lot of my stuff. Like I like a lot of sociological science fiction.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of stuff that talks like Blade Runner, like that talks about where we will probably end up, as
Hmm.
opposed. And even though I love Star Trek a lot, I don't see humanity at this point ending up in a place where people care a lot about each other. Even though I love Star Trek, I don't see that being our real future. I think Blade Runner or Mad Max, unfortunately, or
Yeah.
Elysium or District 9. I see those as closer to the reality of where humanity is going to end up. So that's where a lot of that came from. I wanted to tell a unique story. I don't know if people don't like sci-fi. I think what happens is people have a misunderstanding of what sci-fi is, because every now and then a science fiction film will come out and gross $1 billion, like Dune, which is based on a famous book or a series of
Avatar.
books, Avatar, and a bunch. I mean, there's a lot of other ones that are semi-original concepts that are science fiction that people pay good money for. I think that people don't read a lot of science fiction is what happens. And because we don't, as a nation, we don't actually read, like compared to other nations. But I don't know. I mean, Shadow Law was an experiment. A lot of things happened behind the scenes, which is why I'm going to reboot it to be closer to my original vision. Because even though I got it out there, I learned a lot about how the business works. I learned a lot about managing artists, which is really the hardest thing to do in the world, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of like creative stuff. Trying to get a comic book off the ground is almost as hard as making a movie independently, or making any movie, period. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot of suffering that's a part of it, and no one likes to talk about that side of it. People would much rather discuss, what happens after the fact. But generally speaking, Shadow Law was a big classroom for me on a personal and a professional level.
Well, speaking of classrooms, I'm so glad you
Mm-hmm.
said that.
Mm-hmm.
I like to sway words. Is it true that you taught history and economics in NY public schools, which is a tall glass to fill? Is that true?
I taught in middle school and high school in New York City public schools for about 6 years. And then right around that time, toward the end, I started teaching on the college level just to make some extra money, because teachers, you just don't make enough money.
Yeah.
That was there's so much. I mean, I could talk about 3 hours just about my teaching years. It was a different way of, it taught me more about where we were as a society than anything else did. I think that a lot of people are responsible for our educational system. It's not just the government, it's also families.
Yeah.
What families do after and before school starts has as much to do with what a kid learns as they do in between, during school hours.
Yeah.
I saw some very negligent situations and neglectful situations occur as a teacher that really changed my perspective on people. It didn't make me angrier, but I do think that people need to step up and take more responsibility about their own lives, and also take responsibility for their children. You can't blame, everybody else when, if in your house you don't have any reading materials, if in your house you don't read to your kids, if in your house they got more Jordans and video games than they have books. Like that's not my fault. It ain't no teacher's fault. It's not the Department of Education's fault. It's not a principal's fault. It's not the President of the United States' fault. You got to take care of your children, period, because ain't nobody else going to do it. And that's how I
Right
look at
on.
it.
Yeah. Okay. So, listen, and just the fact that you had the wits to be able to go into public schools and
Mhm.
deal with that, man, because it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And that it's a lot. It's a tall glass to fill, man. Because I don't like just before we move on, I don't like how a lot of parents leave their children
Yep.
into the hands of other people, like as if this is my damn responsibility. No. I'm just here to paint your damn house and leave. Don't ask me to, like, do I have chef experience? Can I cut the grass? Do I know how to unclog the toilet? That's none of my damn business. So, just to make the analogy,
Right,
it's
right.
my damn business. Speak back to Shadow Law. Is
Well,
it true?
I have one point though before we go back to Shadow Law, real
Oh,
quick. When you talk about it, now there's another argument too. Now I'll give you a great example of something I learned. I'm not from LA, obviously, but I live here. I've been living here for quite some time now, since 2008.
mhm.
I've met 3 different black men who don't know each other, and these 3 black men all were born and raised and went to school in LA, and all 3 of them told me, remember, these men don't know each other, that a lot of people told them during their school years that they would never amount to anything. And I was stunned to know that, because, one thing I'll say about Southern California, specifically LA, as somebody who didn't grow up here, it's like it's a very weird anti-blackness that's here, and it's very difficult to talk about because nobody wants to talk about it.
Talk
But
about it.
people really seem to not like black people here, but they act like no one wants to talk about it publicly. Now Hollywood is a lot more obvious about it, but the industry, I should say, not Hollywood because that's a town, but the industry is a lot more honest about it in terms of like they openly do things to stop you. But within the public life of Los Angeles, it just shocks me how much black people here have had to deal with, and why.
There's no unity. Like there
Yeah,
are no
there's no unity.
conversations. There are no real
Yeah,
conversations. Like I said, I hate to cut you off. There's a difference between Oakland and Los Angeles. Okay,
hmm
completely different vibes. When I go to Oakland, I feel that black unity. If I see a random black person, you know what I'm saying, I feel that black unity.
right,
Like they
exactly,
got different
exactly.
dialect or how you address black people. They go, hey, yo, blood. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I was like, okay, wait, I'm not in LA, so whatever he's saying, it's not what it means in LA. So I was like, hey, you can call by my name, brother. What's up? What you need? You just needed directions. I gave him directions, and like it's just a completely different sense of community. And I'm like, damn, yeah, I see why there ain't no damn HBCUs. Like they like
hmm
the old like I said this when I first moved here. If you want black unity, you got to be in the hood. And I'm like, I'm not from here. I'm not gonna be in no damn hood. I'm not gonna be in
Right.
the ghetto because I ain't got time for that shit. Excuse my language. Like I was not gonna curse in this interview, but I ain't got time for that because like no, I have a career, I have things to do.
hmm
And as much as I would love to be around my black people, I don't know this area. I don't know these people, and so I'm going to
Right.
stick to the roles that
Right.
I know. And each one teach one. If I run into some black people,
Exactly. Which is what I do.
unity. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Unity. I need to cut you off. Unless you were done, I can move on to the next question because I want to talk about
Yeah, I'm
these
done. Now
awards.
we can get back to the other stuff.
I
That's
want to talk
fine.
about these awards. Hit up. You know, I was trying to say awards. Hit up. Hey, in 2013, you won and I please forgive me, I'm saying this wrong, the Glyph Award for
hmm
Best Writer for your
Yeah.
project that we were talking about, Shadow Law. How was that? That's an accomplishment. How was that, sir?
Well, I mean, that was the East Coast Black Age of Comics Convention, which is still going on. It was in Philly. I think it's still in Philly for many, many, many years. I went to the first few, and I was blessed enough to be voted by my peers, black folk in the comics. I've won quite a few awards with them over the years. I haven't been able to go back because I live 3,000 miles away.
Yeah,
I haven't had the money, unfortunately. But to have that be my first award for something I struggled so hard to get, especially an award that was crafted by and for the black comic book community, global black comic book community. It's one of my that's why I talk about it. I don't talk about a lot of other things. I talk about the Glyph Awards. I talk about it a lot. And I will be forever, and I mean forever grateful for that was the first real award I ever won in the business. You know.
yeah. You won a few. You won a few with them. 2014. You won a couple.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
got nominated for the Eisner Award for
Eisner.
the
Yeah.
Eisner, excuse me, award for the Watson and Holmes graphic novel, which I was very curious to talk to you about
Sure, go for it.
because I'm a Sherlock Holmes fan, Doctor Who fan. I'm a
hmm
nerd. Like I'm a nerd for a mom, man. But it was just an intriguing take because normally I'm not a fan when people
hmm
take characters that we're known for being white and
hmm
put black
hmm
faces on them. But with that particular concept, I was like, I'm curious to see how you guys, like go about that concept because
Yeah. Well,
hey,
yeah. There's a whole story
good.
behind that, and I'm gonna try to make it fast. So I didn't create it. That series was created by Brandon Perlow and a guy named Paul Mendoza, alongside Carl Ballers, who's a black male
Mm-hmm,
writer.
mm-hmm.
That first volume I was not a part of. I did issue number 6, which was in volume 2, which has just been
Okay.
re-released actually
Mm-hmm.
by Fair Square Comics, which is Fabrice Sapolsky's. I can never say his last name right, but Fair Square Comics just re-released the Watson and Holmes franchise. I think they got the rights to it. But
Mm-hmm.
all credit for that goes to Brandon Perlow, Paul Mendoza, and Carl Ballers for getting that off the ground. And they asked me out of the blue when things weren't going too well for me at that time, career-wise. They asked me to do one issue. I came up with a story, and next thing you know, it got nominated for an Eisner. And the Eisner is what they give out at San Diego Comic-Con every year. It's like the Academy Awards of the comic book industry. I didn't win, but the nomination was very
Nominations,
nice.
hey,
And
nominations still a
you
win.
know, yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the story behind that, and there's a lot of information on it online if folks want to check it out. But it just got re-released and it's available for sale. So check out Watson and Holmes. I mean, I give it my 10 stars out of 10. You know,
Right. I also want to say real quick that Shadow Law kind of reminds me of Trinity Blood, if you're aware of that anime.
no,
Um, well, I'll tell you about it another time, but
sure.
yeah, I'll tell you about it another time. But okay, like man, listen, this brother has worked with Disney, ABC. You wrote like I think 2 episodes, or you wrote a little bit for Agent Carter,
Yeah, I
which
did
is
one episode, but I was in the writer's room for season
nice,
2. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I think you also did a commission for Vampire Hunter D to adapt it to a TV series or something like that. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the pilot, but then I also did the graphic novel hardcover of it. That was a Kickstarter thing that is very hard to get now, but I was the first Westerner to ever write Vampire Hunter D. And we're still, doing some stuff with it. But yeah, I wrote a pilot. I think the timing of it was bad because there was a few things already out, so nobody wanted to mess with it at the time. But I have a feeling that people are going to come back to Vampire Hunter D real soon. There's a lot of good stuff
Mhm.
happening with that, so I can't talk too much more about it. But yeah, that's that. That's that story.
Right. Okay. Okay. Listen, I'm just gonna go down a list of some of the stuff that you wrote. Okay. Judge Dredd, um, the Marvel action Spider-Man, Transformers, of course. Like, I wish we really had time to really dive into Transformers and
Hmm.
like, damn, man. But I just got to read this up. Okay. He's also worked with the Netflix show War on Cybertron was freaking amazing.
Thank you.
No, that oh my god, dude, that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, dude, why can't they write that for the movies? God damn. Oh, because they don't hire good writers. That's why. Yeah, that's why voice good. But anyway, he's also wrote for DC. He's wrote for Marvel, dude. Oh, freaking love Mr. Miracle. Dude, that oh my god, like Mr. Miracle was amazing, dude. Like just the way that you guys like wrote it and covered it. The Source of Freedom with the black DC with the black DC characters. Wasn't that also a thing? Like I wish we had time to talk about that. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wrote for Superman, Truth and Justice, Superman Red and Blue, Batman,
Mm.
the Legend of the Dark Knight. Um, Common Writer is mine. SHIT. You don't understand. Common Writers is inspired off of one of my comic book characters that I have developing called the War Beatable. That's another conversation, dude. But I read all this stuff. I read it on Kindle, so I really enjoyed that Common Writer thing that you did. It's terrific. Of
Thank
course,
you.
we watched Cybertron. In recent years, you've worked with Overwatch. You worked with
Oh yeah.
Hearthstone, and shouts out to Roy Key in the crew at Unique comics for Ianu, Child of Wonder. How was that project? We're gonna probably end it on that, But he's done.
Yeah.
Listen, this brother's done a lot. HBO Max, everything. He's done it all. Shout out to Robotech too. Your project writing on Robotech, but no, we're gonna probably end it on Ianu.
That's fine.
How was that?
Well, I was approached. I was at Blizzard Entertainment. That's where I worked on Overwatch and Hearthstone and a few other things. And shout out to all the people, unfortunately, who were laid off from Blizzard. They laid off 1,900 workers last week. So I'm still like a lot of my friends too. I'm like really not happy about it. But hopefully everybody lands on their feet. But I'm giving them my true thoughts and prayers, and that's real. Well, anyway, so when I was at Blizzard toward the end of my time there, I was approached to help adapt Ayanu's first graphic novel into a TV pilot. But the first graphic novel has so much going on that we had to kind of split it up. So make a long story short, the producers and other people were impressed with my adaptation, and that led to another script. And then after a little bit of time passed, we got greenlit into a TV series. So there are 2 seasons of Ayanu coming out. I believe it may be dropping toward the end of this year, I believe. It'll be on Max and Cartoon Network. It'll be on Cartoon Network, on regular TV, and then Max as a streamer. That was something I was really, really, really happy about. And it's the first time I was ever head writer for a TV series, animated or otherwise. And it was a great experience. I had a fantastic writing staff. Roy Akupe is an amazing creator. His ideas are amazing, and his ideas were so good, it made it easy to adapt
To
it to
just
television.
adapt it.
Yeah. So with that being said, Iyanu, I think, is going to be a game changer. It's authentically Nigerian, specifically Yoruba. There's a lot of Yoruba specific references and a lot of modern Nigerian cultural references in there, specifically when it comes to Afro beats. We're going to have like real Afro beat artists, and the soundtrack is going to be authentically Nigerian. It's going to be off the chain.
Wizkid, Burna Boy, Patrick Rankin,
Yeah, I don't know the
like
names.
it's a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was just throwing some out there for you because I know I listen now. I've been
No,
listening
but
to
what I
Afro
mean
since
is,
2012.
I don't know who we signed because those names are
Right.
huge. I don't know if they're signed to us, but there are other names out there, you know. But with that said,
Mm-hmm.
and real quick, to do a thing on Robotech, you know, Robotech Rick Hunter, for those who are Robotech fans, that book dropped last year. It's a 4-issue series. Issue 3 is dropping on February 7th. We're doing a signing if you're in the LA area at DJ's Universal Comics up in Studio City on February 10th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Me and one of the cover artists, who also is a major artist for G.I. Joe and Robotech and other stuff, his name is Jamie Sullivan. You should look him up. He's an amazing artist. We're going to be signing books over at DJ's Universal Comics again on Saturday, February 10th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Studio City. If you can get out there, please, you know, come by. But yeah, that's basically how it all runs right now. So with Iyanu, you know, I did some other stuff recently. I like the Common Writer book. I really enjoyed working on that, 01, you know. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, and people can find me if they're interested on Instagram at Brandon Easton Writer. I just started using TikTok, and I'm noticing there's a lot of connection there, and I get a lot more interaction there, like a lot more eyes get on my work on TikTok. So I think I'm like Brandon Easton or Brandon Easton Writer on TikTok, and so forth and so on. So if people want to reach out, they can drop me a line, and yeah, it's been cool, and you know, and we could definitely do an episode in the future just talking about Transformers because that'll be easy,
Definitely can. Come on
you
back.
know.
Listen, anytime. I just got to say this real quick. I know you got to go. I think Iyanu is the, like, I don't want to say first, but I want to say Iyanu's probably a black cartoon that was actually written by a black person
Yes.
within since Static Shock, and that was back in like 1998, and that is incriminating. On going back to that Hollywood thing, what you were saying of how open they are of their appreciation, how much they care about the black community. To it's damn near 30 years that we got another cartoon. Like it's not even American, but you know, it's black, so we're gonna take it. And I think that's incriminating, but I also think that it's up to our community to fund things like this and get those messages out
Yeah.
there.
You know, and to leave it on that note, I would say the final thing is that, you know, there's been an argument in the black geek community going back to probably 2004 about, do we really support us on the level that we need to be supported? You know,
No.
it's an argument because, you know, I've met a lot of young black independent comics creators, guys like Greg Elise, guys like David Crownson, Brian Lambert, and I
Lazo
mean, some,
Star,
was that?
Lazo Star, Concrete Comics.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people I don't remember off the top
Right,
of my head.
right.
But the point is that there's a lot of folk out there who are doing stuff. They go to cons. They're at every show. I can't do that. I mean, I don't know how anybody has the energy or the money, but these guys are at every show and they tell me stories, and they go through the same thing that I went through, that other cats go through, where it's like you'll be at your booth, black people won't stop. They keep on walking. I know people who have had to hire women, attractive women, to sit at their booth with them because
So
that's the
people
only way to
come
get
up.
people to stop. You know, I know people that have had to have white folk hang out at their booth to get people to stop. You know, it's like I don't know. I mean, I wrote a essay about it years ago that got me in a lot of trouble, and it was called Black Geek Stockholm Syndrome, about how like we don't like we talk about support, but we throw our money at stuff we say we hate. Like people will spend all this money on Marvel, DC, this and that and this and that, but if a
Image.
whatever it is, and then when a black person gets hired to write one of those books, they don't buy that book. You know, they won't support the book. And as soon as a white writer gets back, they say, oh, why ain't they got a black writer? But then they go buy the book that the black writer was just on, which shows the company, oh, no one's going to support black writers, so we're not going to hire any. Before they didn't hire any on principle. Now they're not hiring any because the numbers don't support when they get in. They get in this, but that's a whole other issue. So I feel like we need to really keep having that conversation about why the support isn't there. And with that note, unfortunately, I've got to go. I've got many meetings today, but we will revisit Transformers at some time in the future.
Wakanda, Brandon, it's been a real, bro. Thank you so much for stopping by. Y'all go support this brother, respect my nerve. Y'all go follow him, everybody. All right, peace, Brandon, peace. Stay black.
Take care. Bye-bye.